I have many more games to show. Unfortunately, because of the volume of this DVD, I have to come to an end at some point, and I would like to end with my win against Nigel Short, where I demonstrated the breakthrough in the center, quite a similar one as in the previous game against Swidler. And after my breakthrough in the center, black position collapsed completely, and this game became short. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castle, bishop e7, queen e2. So I'm also playing this variation as white. So the ideas are quite similar as in the previous games when white is playing queen e2 on move 5. So now b5, bishop b3, castle, c3, d5, d3, and now Nigel played the move d4 against me. This is quite a normal move, but I think this move is not the best in the position. So if you want to know how black should play here, you should look at my games against Leka, Karyakin and Carlsen. They were all featuring the same position, only in these three games black played normally bishop b7, rook e8, then a6, queen d7, and bishop f8 with equal position. But when preparing for this game against Nigel, I have noticed that he is very fond of to play d4, and with the ideas to hold the center. Of course, if black can hold this central pawn on d4, then he will be standing not worse. So all the following play was about who will win the fight over the control of this key central square d4. So now the move rook d1. After the move rook d1, I already want to exchange on d4 two times. Then I want to play bishop e3 and d4 with initiative. So this idea. And in this game, black played bishop g4. So I don't think that this move is good for black, but the idea is following. Exchanging the bishop to f3, after queen f3, there will be no more pressure on the pawn d4, and then playing bishop c5 sometimes additionally, the pawn on d4 will be extra protected. Black will keep the control over the square d4, and sometimes he can also take on c3, bc3, and play b4. As I've already been explaining, that this is a typical plan for the Italian game to try to establish the control over the d4 square. Luckily for me, this plan with bishop g4 has serious drawbacks, and in this game I managed to demonstrate them convincingly. So now I play h3, and now bishop f3. Of course, it was possible to play bishop h5 here, but then black has to take into account the possible move g4. So bishop f3, queen f3, and now rook b8. The idea of this strange move is sometimes to support the pawn on b4, because, I repeat, the idea is to exchange on c3 and play b4, attacking the pawn c3. Then black will be able to win the control over the square d4. So after rook b8, I don't have anything better than to continue my development. So I try to put the knight to f1, to g3, and then f5. So I'm just following the typical plans and ideas for the Spanish-Italian game. So if now black takes on c3, then after bc3, b4, I have the move bishop a4. So this is very important move for white. And after bc3, I take on c6, cd4, and bishop d4, and white is standing better, because black has 3 weaknesses in his position, white has only 2 weaknesses, and the advantage of the pair of bishops. So white chances here should be preferred. That's why Nigel didn't take on c3 and he played g6. But this move is a mistake, because I do not play knight f1 here. Knight f1 would not be good, because then after knight g7 I cannot manage the coordination of my pieces, because my knight on f1 doesn't have any space to go. So on g3 is doing nothing. So instead of playing knight f1, which is giving absolutely nothing for me, I play queen e2. And this strong move was obviously missed by my opponent, because my knight now is going to f3, and from f3 I will attack the central pawn d4, threatening to exchange on d4. Also, I will be targeting the pawn e5. And when I play knight f3, my bishop from c1 can also go to h6, and after rook e8 I will have the idea knight g5. And if after knight f3 black will play king g7, then I will play queen d2 with idea queen h6, and then afterwards knight g5. So already at this moment black is in serious trouble. So Nigel decided to continue his plan, his main idea. So he took on c3, bc3, and now he played b4. But in this position I play now bishop a4. So as on the previous move, I have to do this move. So the best reaction would be bc3, but then I would take on c6, and after cd2, white here is standing better for the same reasons, because black has 3 weaknesses, I have only 2 weaknesses, and the advantage of the pair of bishops. But black should have gone into this position. In the game he played knight e7, and this move is bad because the knight from c6 is moving away from the center, and the control over the critical square d4 is being lost, and this immediately allows me to react, breaking through in the center, d4. Instead of immediate d4, it was also possible to play knight f3, b c4, and then d4. It's just transpositional moves. So d4, e d4, knight f3. So it doesn't matter how black takes on c3, because everything leads to the same position. So now e d4, knight f3, bc3, rook d4. So you see that I have won the battle over the center, and now I am ready to push my pawn to e5, smashing the position of black. So the only move is now queen c8, and now I play e5. So the knight f6 is under attack. The only place for it is to go to h5. And now after knight h5, I continue to put pressure on black, playing e6. And it is a very important move. I don't give any chance for black to recover, because only one move would be necessary for black to cement his position, play knight b5 or playing knight g7 and then knight e6, holding everything. But with an energetic play from my side, black position collapses completely. So queen e6 now is not possible, because then there will be move rook e4, and after f e6 I will simply play bishop d7, and then I will take on e6 with the queen also winning. So knight b5, and now I play rook d7, another move a tempo attacking the bishop on e7, queen e8, and now bishop b3. So black cannot take on e6, because after check the bishop e7 won't be lost, so he has to play f6. Now again another developing move, a tempo, knight g7 is forced, and now you see that I've already finished the development. All my pieces are standing on the best places. I have protected past pawn e6. Now I want to take on e7, and after queen e7 I want to win playing rook d7. So black position is completely lost. So the desperate attempt to save, but of course it is not possible to save anything anymore. So he played knight e5, and I simply win the exchange. Now I can play g4, pushing away the knight to g7, and now came the moment to win the extra pawn for my opponent back. So you see that this pawn was completely irrelevant. f5, knight e5, knight is going to c6, attacking the bishop e7 and rook b8. Few more moves were played, and after queen g5, h4, black resigned. So you see that incredibly strong player, very strong player as Nigel Short, was completely smashed in the Spanish game. So you see that I managed to win a lot of games in Italian and Spanish, also against very strong opponents.